The Game Boy was an incredible success for Nintendo, and there are so many great games for this system, but so many of them only take about 20 to 30 minutes to complete. And doing an entire Braselspective video on a game that only takes that long to finish, I just don't think that it would work very well. So I figured I'd put in a couple of games into one video and we'd see how it goes. And most of these games are ones that I have pretty fond memories of. So we're going to start with Super Mario Land. I remember the first time I played Super Mario Land, I was excited to be playing a Mario game on a Game Boy, but also confused by the strange gameplay changes that Nintendo made. Koopa shells were blowing up, Mario's movement was wonky, and fireballs bounced around the screen rather than bouncing along the ground. The changes weren't unwelcome, just a bit unfamiliar to me. Today, I run through this game a few times a year. I love it. While the platforming isn't nearly as solid as Mario's console counterpart, it's still a solid title that's a lot of fun to play. Not only does Mario have his normal jumping superpowers, but he's also able to pilot a submarine and an airplane in 2 shooter-type levels. The worlds all have their own unique looks, and some even have specific enemies, giving Super Mario Land more personality than even the original Super Mario Bros. The game isn't without its flaws. Like a lot of Game Boy games, playing on the original handheld can make gameplay harder than was intended due to motion blur. If Mario is running quickly, you can easily run into enemies that you can't see. Mario also moves almost too fast to control easily, which means accidental, imprecise jumps, and crashing into the enemies you can see. Again, the game is a good time, but it's far from perfect. Super Mario Land is a game worth playing, and it's a pretty cheap one if you just want to find the cartridge. You should be able to download it on the 3DS Virtual Console as well. Give it a play if you haven't before. Other than Tetris, Super Mario Land, or Link's Awakening, one of the most iconic Game Boy games is probably Kirby's Dreamland. I remember getting this game pretty soon after my Game Boy and beating it shortly after popping it in for the first time. I wasn't particularly excited about this game growing up, but I did enjoy playing it from time to time. It was a quick game to pop in and finish in 20 minutes or so. Compared to a lot of games from this genre and this time period, it's pretty easy. Kirby's Dreamland is all about accessibility, and that doesn't mean it's a bad game. Quite the contrary, it's very fun, and while gameplay mechanics are simple, the enemies and level design give it enough complexity to keep a veteran gamer happy. If it's still too easy for you, there's even an extra mode that amps up the difficulty, making enemies harder to dodge and giving bosses new patterns. Who knew Wispy Woods could be so tough? Kirby's Dreamland isn't normally a tough game to find. I wasn't really happy with the $10 price tag that I ended up paying to get it. But I haven't seen it any cheaper these days, so I just went ahead and got it. It's a game that I enjoyed playing a lot growing up, and I wanted to play it again, so still a win. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan was the first game I played on a Game Boy. It's a pretty simplistic side-scrolling action game with a few platform elements and a whole lot of foot soldiers. The game isn't too tough until the last level. You guide your turtle through waves of enemies, eating pizza to refill your health along the way. At the end of every level, you'll have to learn boss patterns to win. If you lose all your health, your turtle will be captured, though he'll curiously remain in all the really cool cutscenes between levels. If you lose all your turtles, it's game over. Never fear though, because the game blatantly gives you a level select right at the start. Don't want to go back and play level 1 again? Skip ahead. I still haven't beaten this game though, because the Technodrome level is really tough. I wouldn't pay much more than $5 for Fall of the Foot Clan, and that's not because it's a bad game, it's just simple and I don't really feel the need to go back to it too often. The Game Boy's a great little system, and it's got a lot of really good games to play. I still have a couple more that I'd like to cover, so I might do another video like this in the future. That's all I got. I appreciate you guys watching. Later!